is no surprise to anyone by now to say that Charlie's Angels 2019 was an absolute disaster. Still, when we're going by the numbers, the level of disaster, I mean, that's something that we need to talk about. See, a lot of people, they will discuss the movie when it's making headlines immediately, but we forget to go back and to look at the example here and to showcase just what kind of failure this is. That's what I want to do here. I want to showcase how this movie, it loses close to $39 million. And when compared to the earlier iterations of Charlie's Angels, well, you can see why they made a new movie. But Elizabeth Banks being in charge of it and going out and preaching that same tired pulpit, yeah, you can see why it lost, and it lost dramatically. So hey there. So today you and I are going to go and look at some new numbers because I really like doing this. I also want to remind you of why this movie, it loses money out there. And it loses money because of someone named Elizabeth Banks. I mean, Elizabeth Banks decided she was going to put together something that didn't look like the earlier Charlie's Angels movies. She thought she would put together something that the critics even panned as a by-the-numbers feminist propaganda guide. And I mean, these were people that you would think would be placated by it. You can see it in earlier quotes there too, talking about this movie has to make money. If this movie doesn't make money, it reinforces a stereotype in Hollywood that men don't go and see women do action movies. And she says quite a few other things too. And all of this, it points at men as the reason why her movie fails. Now that's not the best marketing approach, and you can see it in these numbers too. But before we hit this, very, very briefly, if you like this content, you want to help out the channel, consider subscribing to it. Share these videos because sharing definitely is caring, and because this stuff is funny, and also interact with it. You know, you can go out, you can say whatever you want to in comments, like the videos as well if you do like them. All of that is appreciated too, and thank you in advance. So when we're talking about the money that this makes or prospectively loses, the first thing that you have to do is consider production budget. You can see it down here. Production budget at $48 million. Now you can see already that the worldwide box office is at 1.2 times that. Sounds really good, right? Until you consider that this was a heavily, and I mean heavily, advertised movie. See, in that, you have to double the budget and really say that's how you break even. So for this movie to break even, we would be talking about around $96 million. And yeah, didn't even come close to that. I mean, if you look at the domestic box office numbers, and we'll break this down a little bit more detail in just a minute, but you have $17,700,000 in change. If you look at the international box office, you end up with under $40 million for a total of $57,558,754. Like I said, if we're going to round up in this, we were talking about around $39 million here. That is quite a bit of money to lose when you're talking about a Charlie's Angels film. I mean, I'm sure that caught a lot of people off guard too, because there was a specific formula that seemed to advance with these movies, and everybody seemed to like them. When that first came out in early 2000, late 2000 rather, you saw a worldwide gross of $259,736,000. No wonder that people went out and wanted to make more of these. They made another one 3 years later, and that movie, it broke $227 million worldwide gross. This movie, however, made 16 years later, it comes in at a measly $57,558,000. I mean, when you look at those comparisons there, a lot of people out there, depending on what kind of thing they wanted to throw out, how woke their comments were saying, well, it's been so much time and nothing. If you look at the way this was advertised, you look at the type of movie it was, it deviated from what worked. And well, when you do that, you take on much more risk than you think. Now, I think this shows too, and not only the box office, but the international box office, which I'll show. You can see this. I mean, when we look at the first few days, yeah, it doesn't make anything. We're talking about a paltry 8 million plus, and then the reviews come in. The reviews for this movie, they laughed this off. It bombed on both sides of it with critics and audiences. And you can see this. It does make some money, but it doesn't take long to plateau out. Now, by the time you get here, again, we have our 17,700,000. But the expectation for that, that's what this is. If it would have performed high when it started out here, we would be talking about, say, 28,579,000 to a low range of $19,243,000. Basically, putting this into an example, this thing wouldn't be buried in a basement. This thing would be buried under the house, maybe under in a cave somewhere, playing a Scrabble with trolls. I don't know exactly. Now, also, when you go in and you look at the international numbers, I think it's very telling when you see the Chinese market going in and giving less than the U.S. audience. I mean, with a movie like this, you have an expectation of doubling the U.S. domestic audience. And yeah, this movie didn't even come close. What's even more telling is you only have one country in all the worldwide territory here talking about over $10 million gained. I mean, we're saying international here. You only have one actually breaking $5 million, and that's sad. And then, I mean, when we're considering it, we only have 3 that break $3 million. The rest of these, I mean, they come in. It doesn't stair step. It's like falling off a cliff and then, coming to a stop here. Now, when you look at the amount of theaters that this opened in to make that amount of money too, I mean, look at all the theaters, especially with China. Insane numbers. And yet you get failure. Not only failure, but abysmal failure at that. I mean, it tells you, again, that there was a problem out there, that people did not enjoy your movie. But instead of people going in and asking why that is, of course, they go out and they blame men. Now, what does that say about this movie? Well, it gives you that old adage, get woke. Well, you know how the rest of that goes. Basically, you end up burning down companies. You end up burning down jobs and prospects, and you end up costing people livelihood. That's the thing with stuff like this. One person decided to make this decision, decided to move things forward in a certain direction, and decided to double and triple down on this narrative, thinking that them being so out of touch that would somehow resonate. See, those early movies, one thing that they had going for them was they were a lot of fun. They went in, they took a specific direction, and that direction, it was supposed to be action-packed. It had a specific type of outfitting and everything, and people could enjoy that. Strong women, they were out there, they were sexy. It was a funny movie that didn't take itself seriously. Well, this was the reversal of it. And if you didn't go and see it, well, you were browbeaten into that, and that it never works. But anyway, you tell me what you thought about this, and does it surprise you that it lost that much money? And do you think these companies will ever wake up to this reality? So ending this, I want to thank you for showing up. I want to thank you for your time. You make these things possible. You empower endeavors. Never let these people tell you otherwise. That's why I always end by thanking you, because you have the power to unmake things just as you have the power to make them. And yeah, these people, they need to learn that. We should already know that lesson. And we should end every time by saying thank you. We appreciate you. If you want to help out with interactions, awesome. But your time is worth something. So thank you for that.